Now, the one thing, the area that we did not get a chance to talk about is, that's better. The area we didn't get a chance to talk about has to do with the assimilation, amalgamation, and accommodation. And that stuff's straight out of sociology, your sociology text, but politics being one of the social sciences. One of the social sciences, this is important for when we talk about beliefs and coming in contact with other individuals. Democrats and Republicans, for example, have a different idea on how government should operate. Well, what happens with different groups or different individuals who have different beliefs come into contact with one another, and particularly if they're settled in those beliefs? One of three things is going to happen. Assimilation, amalgamation, or accommodation. Assimilation, amalgamation, or accommodation. One of those three things is going to be the outcome of when two ideologies come into contact, when two cultures come into contact. One of these three things will be the outcome. By equation, this is where we got A plus B equals A. Amalgamation is A plus B equals C. And accommodation is A plus B equals A plus B. And what you're looking at here is this is ideology A, right? Comes into contact, comes together with ideology B, and the result is
B is assimilated by A.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. B has been assimilated by A. In other words, B has adopted A, has adopted that ideology, has adopted those beliefs or that belief based on the evidence, based upon that this makes more sense, whatever the case may be. And here what you have is you have a combination. A and B have come together, and the result is
another idea.
All together, right? Another idea. Very exactly. Together, they've come up with some type of maybe of a compromise or something to that effect. And then A plus B equals A plus B.
It's the same ideology.
They've remained separate.
It remains the same.
Yep, exactly. A stays A, B stays B.
They agree to do so. They
agree to disagree. They agree to stay separate. Yeah, exactly. You see this, right? You see this in the well of the legislature. You see this up in Lansing. Ideology. I mean, this is kind of the bipartisanship, right? This is when the majority just says, you do it our way. Not really. We'll come back to this. And this is what we see more often than not. The B stays itself and A stays itself, particularly when it comes to the political ideology. In culture, it's a little bit different. To a degree, it makes sense in political policy. But in culture, when A culture and B culture come together, this is what's happening, and we'll do it in kind of our quality of life hill. Rational to go which way on the quality of life hill?
Go up.
Up. So it's irrational to
come down.
Come down. Nobody wants to come down the quality of life hill. Okay, that just doesn't make sense. Nobody wants a worse quality of life tomorrow than they have today. Right? That goes almost without saying. But starting with that as your foundation, when A comes to and meets B, what A is looking at, whether it's the role of government, whether it's the food choices, whether it's gender equity, whether it's religion, whatever the cultural trait is, whatever we might be talking about, when A perceives B, it makes an evaluation as to how would adopting B affect them. And if A starts from a position that it has a good quality of life, and it looks at B, we'll do a little thought box here, and it perceives that B is down here, it would be irrational for A to do what B does, to adopt B. Okay? It would be irrational for conservatives to all of a sudden decide that the rule of government should be to force equality. It would be irrational for conservatives because they don't see that as the way to giving them a better quality of life. You want to bring them down the hill. Okay, B, for assimilation's sake, also, do a little thought box, perceives that A is up the hill. See that? So, rational for B to say, hey, let's do it this way. Irrational for A to go the other way around. So everybody's in agreement, B is in agreement, and A is in agreement that A's way of doing things is best or better. Hence, the result is A. Okay? All right? That's assimilation. Can you force assimilation?
Mm-hmm.
Yes and
Yes,
no.
you can. That's it. You usurp. Okay, you got money.
Okay.
More than likely, you can get those without money to think your way.
Okay.
Because of the quality of life.
Okay.
You want. I mean,
Okay.
that's the purpose of B. B wants to climb the hill
Right.
and become A.
Right.
So it is assimilated. It becomes A. It's no longer the poverty stricken.
You're 100% correct on all accounts, except are you forcing that individual to adopt your way, or are you showing that individual that the way you're doing things is better given the current system?
Sure.
Okay. But you're right. Somebody else said you can force it as well. You can attempt to force assimilation. You can attempt to force it. You can attempt to force assimilation. It's a lot like legislating morality, for example. But ultimately what you're going to get is you're going to get pushback. And that pushback, if you try to force B what it believes would be down the quality of life hill, you're going to get pushback on that, right? If you're getting if you have a relationship, an A-B relationship, and B perceives that it's up top of the quality of life hill, okay? This is where B is according to A. This is where A is according to B. If by perception, if you're trying to force A to do what you do, B's going to perceive that as being pushed down the quality of life hill. And they're going to naturally resist that. Nobody wants to go down the quality of life hill. And this is where, if you get into a debate or a discussion, not really, I guess, a debate, but if you do get into a discussion regarding Al-Qaeda, Islamic extremism, you start to talk about the terrorist acts of 9/11 or what we're even witnessing today, and you want a rationale. You want some type of a rational argument as to why individuals do what we would perceive to be irrational things, like commandeering jet planes and flying them into office buildings. This is it. Here it is. It's a perception of forced assimilation from a Middle Eastern culture to the culture of the West. And the pushback they're getting, or the pushback they're giving, is ultimately a pushback against Westernization, which is a type of assimilation all its own. What does it mean to come from the West? What is Westernization? What is the assimilation into the Western culture? And I'm not talking about West being the United States. I'm talking about West being Western Europe, and particularly in political realms. You're talking about democracy, religious tolerance. You're talking about gender equity. Those are the progressions and the movements of the West. And if you look at the Middle Eastern culture, those are certainly attacks in some areas of Islam, of the Muslim culture. Not to all the Muslim culture, but to the extreme components of it. And the reaction to that assimilation taking place, or even perceived forced assimilation, is 9/11. Terrorism is not only an act, it's an ideology. It's an ism. It's a belief that political change can come about by acts of terror. Through force. And the terror comes from maybe a group of individuals who are not as strong militarily as the United States certainly, or strong in numbers, smaller group of individuals, and therefore they don't have the political participation component of a representative democracy. They don't have the military component of army to army. So they have the terror of box cutters, jets, small attacks. But the objective is to change or to slow down, if not stop, in this case, the Westernization of the Middle East, of the infidels on the peninsula. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And it's not condoning those actions by any sense of the word. The idea is that we try to make some sense out of what's going on, and that is reaction. Let's turn it around.